Okay, so week 5 of the NFL season just finished. You're listening to Nicholas Bacher and his opinions on the week 5 NFL season. Now, we're going to start off with one of my favorite topics of this year and a story that we're going to see develop the rest of the year. Now, for years, I believed in Daniel Jones. Now, Daniel Jones is a good QB, in my opinion. Now, here's why, though. So, what does he do that differentiates him from other quarterbacks? That's the question you got to ask yourself when evaluating any quarterback. Well, he's mobile. If you look at the statistics, he's one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the NFL currently. Obviously, he's not as mobile as a guy like Lamar, but he can do designed runs. He can go outside the pocket, and he's not bad at it. He's pretty good at it, actually, and you get him out there on bootlegs, and that's something that he excels at. Second thing is he's really good at being accurate on a lot of the crossers, though he did miss one against the Packers to Darius Slayton, but he also hit another crosser that was eerily similar on a bootleg. And the real thing is he's accurate, he's got a big arm, he's gritty, he runs outside the pocket, and Brian Daboll's unlocked his potential with a lot of these bootlegs that they run, and running through Saquon really helps this team. Now, if Saquon gets hurt, I don't know if Daniel Jones is the same because they'll be keying on him instead of Saquon. But Daniel Jones has really developed a lot. He came into the league with fumbling issues, turnover issues, throw some interceptions, didn't read the field well enough. You're starting to see him go through 3 reads instead of 1. You're starting to see him choose when to run the ball, and you're starting to see Daniel Jones be able to throw accurately to his receivers more consistently, as well as be able to use some better pocket presence, though that is the weakness of his game. And the way they've mitigated that in Brian Daboll's offense is they've had him roll out of the pocket more on play action rollouts. He doesn't have to use pocket presence if he's not in the pocket, which is kind of brilliant. Though teams might start keying in on that. They don't really have the outside weapons outside of Saquon. Really, they don't have any weapons to really take pressure off their game plan. Like, they don't have a Tyreek Hill. They don't have a Devontae Adams. They don't have a receiver that you have to game plan for at all. They have David Sills right now. Sterling Shepard towards ACL. I mean, it's Saquon. It's a solid offensive line, and it's Daniel Jones. David Sills, Darius Slayton, and Richie James is not going to be a sustainable wide receiver core for your roster if you want to win a Super Bowl. And that's just a factual statement that teams are going to have to live with, in my personal opinion. Now, the next thing that I really want to talk about is the fact that, the importance of head coaching has been proven by Daniel Jones. He looked awful with Pat Schumer. He looked awful with I think it was Joe Judge, and I think he had another coach in there too. And he looked awful with Garrett play calling as well. And what it really shows is when you don't have a coach who is able to scheme things up for your quarterback, he's not going to look good. The offense isn't going to look good. When you don't surround him with an O-line, wide receivers, a competent defense, any quarterback's going to look bad. Not saying Daniel Jones is now Josh Allen or even like a super talented QB who you're going to build a franchise around, but he's a starter in the NFL. He is. He can start for you. And years of negligence made him look unplayable. And that's really just what it is. And I think it's a compliment to Brian Daboll that he's made this offense look good because they don't have any receivers. Kenny Golladay is literally a waste of cap space. He is a waste of cap space. He just kind of sits there and drops passes. That's what he does. He was good in Detroit for a few years, but he just hasn't really panned out there. And Darius Slayton is more of a wide receiver for situational deep threat type guy. They have Saquon. Saquon's their guy. That's the only weapon they have. And if I'm the Giants heading into this offseason, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to keep Daniel Jones if he keeps playing like this, keep Saquon, and try and add receivers to this team. Add some receivers who give you upside in your offense. People they got a game plan for. Got to get weapons for this team. And then if Daniel Jones can't take you up over that hump, what you do is you throw him out, because you can get him on a 1-2 year deal, guaranteed probably. He's not going to be asking for a lot unless he just fucking tears it up the rest of the year. But you can get him for not much, and then if he fails, you chuck him out after the receivers aren't good, and you bring your guy in. And then with Dable, he's going to develop quickly. He's going to be set up to succeed, and he's going to be in an offense that's already well coached. So what they need to do is they kind of need to use Daniel Jones as I'm not even going to say mentor. It's more of like a stopgap. And if he happens to be more than a stopgap, once you get him those receivers, then, well, great, you're ahead of schedule. That's really what the Giants should do. Obviously, develop the defense, get Thibodeau up to speed. But I really like what they're doing. They got a really good offensive system that they run. It's like this West Coast kind of scheme almost, but I don't know. Brian Dable has run a lot of crossers that you see in like the Shanahan type offenses, but he's also run a lot of interesting quarterback option and wildcat with Saquon. That's just some brilliant play calls. And he also runs a lot of good quick game stuff in the right situations, and he has a lot of smart RPOs. He has good screens too, but Packers were honestly really good against those. So maybe they figured the screen game out. Now, the next step is the importance of head coaching, like I've been talking about, but competent head coaching. Where do you see competent head coaching come into effect? I'd say the greatest example of competent head coaching is the Giants versus the Panthers. Now, you might be saying the Giants are a way better team. If you switch the head coaches that the team started the year with, I think the Panthers would probably be 4-1 and the Giants would be 1-4. And here's the thing. Panthers don't really have a starting caliber QB. I don't think it matters. They have McCaffrey. They have Moore. Their offensive line isn't awful. And they have, in my opinion, a top 10 defense in the NFL. So what was the issue? Ben McAdoo is a very uninspired play caller that has a lot of really readable tells that he installed in this offense that are completely ludicrous. And you can watch Dan Orlovsky if you want to see more of that. Another big issue, though, is he doesn't use his best players as well as I'd hope, you know? I mean, DJ Moore isn't involved enough. McCaffrey isn't involved enough. It's just a fucking disaster. You're sitting there looking, they've ran the same RPO like 2 weeks in a row. 2 plays in a row, against the Cardinals. And the first time it got pick-sixed. And you know what they said? It's 4th and 1. Guess what? We're going to run the same RPO. They got pick-sixed. And they got deflected. And it's just kind of like, what the hell are you doing? I don't get what your end game is there. And it's not a run-pass option. It's a fake run into a pass. They never hand the ball off. There's no intention to hand the ball off. The D-line already knows what's going to happen. The ball's going to get passed to that outside receiver. And depending on where McCaffrey lines up, they know what play it's going to be. So the offense is just completely stale. And Baker Mayfield can't hit throws. He overthrew McCaffrey on the check down against the 49ers, and that really started the downhill descent. And it looks like the Panthers defense played bad, but I think there was a pick 6 in there, and they blocked 2 kicks. Almost blocked 2 kicks. They blocked one. They got a hand on a second one, and it almost didn't go in. The Panthers were just awful. I think the Panthers also had like another one that was picked off. I don't know. But they set our defense up to fail because the offense was so anemic the whole game. And, Matt Rule's fired now. What went wrong with Matt Rule? He was a college coach. He wasn't a culture guy. Those are the first 2 things. He didn't inspire his team to play, and he wasn't an offensive coach. And he wasn't a defensive coach. So you have a college coach coming into a team with talent that's young. And here's the issue. So he has to be the CEO type of coach. All right. What type of coaches that are experienced as an offense coordinator want to come in to a rookie head coach who doesn't have NFL experience? Not many. And when you don't have someone who's willing to come in like that, you're going to often end up with a coach who's clearly overmatched. And sadly, I think that's what happened to Matt Rule. And Joe Brady wasn't even that bad of an offense coordinator. I think when Joe Brady got fired, really Matt Rule was fired that game. That game he got fired. And really, honestly, the biggest mistake in the Panthers regime was signing Sam Darnold. Not signing, really. They traded like a second for him. And when they traded for him, what they did is they said, all right, if Darnold fails, our team's going down with him. And at the time, I was a little bit higher on that than I am now, but hindsight's 2020. Darnold it was not it, though he did look better than Mayfield. I mean, Darnold just wasn't good. He saw ghosts. He'd throw into triple coverage. I mean, he had a bunch of issues, and after 3 weeks, everyone knew what to do against Darnold. And it was really simple. He lost us games at a consistent level. Joe Brady was scheming up decent plays, but it didn't really matter. And then Matt Rule kind of blamed Joe Brady and fired him, threw him under the bus, and said, "Oh, we'll get it on track next year." And you know what happened? They didn't get it on track. They hired Ben McAdoo, who is an absolute failure of a coach, who hasn't been relevant since like 2015. And just to be perfectly blunt, the offense has looked awful in Carolina. Hopefully the defense stays, and I think they should keep Burns. I think they should keep Moore. They might have to trade McCaffrey, but I don't think they should. It's just going to be dead cap space. They're going to get like a fourth. What the fuck are they going to do with a fourth? McCaffrey is going to give you more than a fourth round pick. If you can't get like at least a second for McCaffrey or at least a first, don't get rid of him. DJ Moore, you just signed him. You know how much dead cap space that is? You keep Moore. You're keeping DJ Moore. And then Brian Burns, he's due for an extension. You could trade him. But where are we going to find Brian Burns in the draft? How many Brian Burns are there? There's like 10, 9, 8, 7, that many. Like, not many pass rushers are better than him. He's a true number one pass rusher. So you keep McCaffrey, Moore. You have this upcoming offensive line that's young and improving, that's locked up. You have McCaffrey who's locked up. You have Moore who's locked up. All right. And you have Anderson. That's something for a head coach to come in and build off. It's something for a rookie QB to come into. And you can feel confident that he at least has something there if you get him the right coach. It's going to be up to coaching. Sean McVay's out there. I doubt that's a job he wants. Maybe they can look to do an in-division hire with Brian Leftwich of the Tampa Bay team, or maybe they can go after Eric Bieniemy, someone like that. I don't know if they could yank one of those guys away, but if they end up with like a top 3 pick, it's very easy to see how that job would be attractive. If you could get like a Bryce Young, a CJ Stroud, someone like that into the building who inspires confidence in the future of the team. All right, moving on to our next topic. I think that another really interesting storyline is what is wrong with Russell Wilson? What's wrong with him? What's going wrong? Well, his play extension has been non-existent. That's what he's known for. He's known for running around, making stuff happen off the script, and being serviceable in script. He hasn't done that at all. He's known for being great as a deep ball passer. He's had like 1 deep ball to Jerry Jeudy, maybe 2 that have been good. He hasn't looked good. And the issue is you could just chalk it up to him being washed if you want, but it's a combination of Hackett. He's a little older, and he looks unconfident, which is partially could be being in a new system. So Russ kind of did this to himself, though. He asked for a trade. The Broncos traded everything, and if he doesn't turn it around by next year, if they aren't a playoff caliber team with Russ throwing bullets, throwing dimes, dropping back, hitting receivers for big games, you're looking at a team that is stuck with a quarterback who's severely overpaid for the next 5 years, lacking 2 first-round picks. So it's the witching hour in Denver. It doesn't look good. I don't know what's wrong with Russ, honestly. I mean, you could chalk it up to bad coaching. You could chalk it up to age. It's probably a combination of a bunch of things. And until we see more, we won't know if Russell Wilson is just a bottom 20 QB. I'd rather have Daniel Jones. I would take Daniel Jones over Russell Wilson today. Russell Wilson is overpaid. Daniel Jones, you can get rid of him right away if he sucks. Daniel Jones would be a much better quarterback for the Broncos. Because if he sucked, oh well, he's gone. And Daniel Jones has frankly played better. He's done more. But so I can really say Saints Seahawks. That's the next topic. And I really want to dive into the Saints Seahawks. So Saints Seahawks. This is a matchup that was explosive. You're not going to see Taysom Hill do this every week, but he had like over 100 rushing yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He was insane. If you have an Alvin Kamara in fantasy, I'm sorry. You should just pick Taysom Hill since he's secretly the running back that they use the most. Then, what are we looking at? For that matchup, what was intriguing? Geno Smith. What's so special about him? Well, he's over 30, started his career with the Jets, and has been a backup that's bounced around the league and finally found a home in Seattle. He's looked damn good. I mean, he's running advanced concepts. He's throwing beautiful sky balls on the run, right above defenders, right into a bucket to his receivers. You had that throw to Tyler Lockett. That was immaculate. He looks like an incredible deep ball passer. He looks like he has a lot of mobility. Looks like he can scramble some. And it looks like he's able to be fairly accurate consistently. And if he can do that, Seahawks probably aren't going to be in a position to replace him. And you could see that as a negative, but you could also see that as great news. Because that means the Seahawks, if Geno Smith could be a franchise QB, are only a few pieces away from being competent again. They just got to revamp the defense a little, maybe get some more consistency on offense. That's looked great. They have Tariq Woolen. He looks really good. There's a lot to be excited about in Seattle. Charles Cross looks great. He's a great pass protector. And just to be honest, all they need now is a better pass rush, an actual fucking coverage safety, and some consistency on defense. Players that fit their scheme. I know they run kind of a complicated quarters scheme that hasn't really worked for them, but if they could find the defensive pieces they need to implement into this scheme, their team will be a playoff caliber team next year if Geno can keep playing the way he has been, because he's been a top 10 QB the first 5 weeks. Now, do I think he's a top 10 QB? No. But is he playing like one? Yes. And if he keeps playing like one, we have to have that conversation of, should they just go with Geno and see if he's the answer? And that's a conversation I'm willing to have at the end of the year if he keeps playing like this. All right, on the docket, I already talked about how the Panthers were awful. Let's talk about how the 49ers demolished them. Kyle Shanahan's a better coach. Jimmy Garoppolo did what he needed to, and their defense just completely outmatched our poor scheming. That's about as simple as it gets, yeah. There's literally nothing else to say about that 49ers game. Maybe besides that, there's like a 4th-round Mound West rookie I keep forgetting the name of, who has been incredible for their team. He's been compared to Troy Polamalu by the analysts when I'm watching. I think that's a little bit out there, but he's been really good. And you know who I'm talking about, or you don't. I'm sorry. I should have looked it up before the show, but they have a rookie linebacker who's been way outperforming his draft position, and they should feel really lucky to get him. Next up, I got to say Tampa versus Atlanta. Tampa probably would win that game regardless of the bad roughing the passer call, but I got to mention it. I don't know what you have to do. Lay a blanket down, lay a mattress down, slowly caress the QB onto the mattress. I guess that's what you got to do. And, I guess that's what they want to happen. Another shitty call, and the Raiders game also had a call like that. They're going to evaluate in the NFL, and if they don't fix it, it's going to be a bad look for the league. People are betting on these games. There's fantasy football going on. There's people losing their jobs over these bad calls. There's people who legitimately could lose their jobs because they don't make the playoffs because a bad roughing the passer call lost them an extra game. But that being said, I don't think Atlanta would have won anyway, but they would have a chance. And I think that's what is frustrating. Mike Evans looked good in that game. He definitely scored a touchdown. I definitely think he did there, but they called it off. But what I learned from Tampa Bay's game there is their offense isn't as good as it used to be. Their defense is still good, but it's not elite. And their offense is still good, but it's not elite. And what I'm getting at is you kind of saw it last year. Tampa isn't elite anymore. They're just good. They have Fournette. He's good. They have Mike Evans, and he's great. That's their best player, in my opinion, on offense. And then you got Chris Godwin. When he's healthy, he's good. They have a solid run game with a solid offensive line with a good receiving core. They're good. They're good everywhere, which is a strength. But the issue is I don't think they're elite anywhere. I guess you could say their run defense with Vita Vea is what's elite, but it's a passing league. It is a passing league. So, I mean, their pass defense hasn't been bad either, but you saw what the Chiefs did to them last week. Good teams are going to find ways to score on them. And I don't think they can keep up like they used to. So I think they're likely a second round exit this year. They're going to win the division. They're going to win their wild card game. They're going to be out in the second round. Tom Brady is probably going to come back for another year. That's my bold claim. He doesn't have Giselle holding him back anymore. He's done with his family. He's just like, I'm a football player. That's my life. And until someone tells him he has to stop, he's going to keep playing, keep balling. All right. The next thing up is Packers. I should have talked about this in the same game, but what's wrong with the Packers play calling? Matt LaFleur was outcoached by Brian Daboll. Their defensive coordinator was woefully outcoached. Is there a solution? Until they get coached better, there's no solution to this problem. So all I can say is Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the receivers he needs. The defense has talent, but they aren't using it correctly. And those two things are major issues that they're going to have to figure out. Romeo Doubs looks great, though. Be excited about him. Maybe Christian Watson something someday. That's about it. All right. Next, Chiefs Raiders. Mahomes still looks like the best QB in the NFL. Kelsey still looks like the best tight end in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, they didn't need him apparently, but Miami loves him. All right. Now defensively, they showed some of their cracks in their pass defense like they always do every week, but I think their pass defense is better than you think. It's just teams have to pass on them. They do. The offense is so high scoring that it's always a shootout. And the teams are usually behind, and the defense usually has to play a lot more because they're scoring so quick. But I think the run defense is solid, and I think the Raiders really have proven something to me. And it might just be that they just are like this short. They could easily have won every game this year. But in almost every game, they came up about that short. That short. They always have like a field goal that they didn't quite make it to the end of the field to kick, or a 2-point conversion like they missed. I don't mind that call, by the way. That's what you want to do. You play to win. You don't play to fucking kick the extra point, tie it up, go to overtime, and let a coin decide your fate. And then, they beat the Broncos. That was a good game for them. They could have beat the Titans, but they made too many bad mistakes. That interception in the red zone cost them. I mean, their season's bleak, and so is the Broncos. Those are the main stories for me this week. If there's any teams that you explicitly want to hear about, comment. Tell me what teams they are. I'll make a video about it. I'll make a deeper dive into it. Maybe try and look up some of the stuff about their schemes, get into some of the playbook stuff they've done. And if you want to hear that, I'd be glad to give it to you. Thank you for watching, and Nick Sports will be back to you very shortly next week.